UFC Macau. This one's back in China. Let's jump right into the main event here. Song Yadong versus Deiveson Figueiredo. I personally thought Song Yadong got robbed against Sean O'Malley. A lot of people were claiming, no, he didn't, close fight, whatever. And it was close, but felt like Yadong definitely stole 2 of 3 rounds, surely. Cejudo performance was solid. He lost to Peter Yan, but, he's beating guys pretty easily, like Chris Gutierrez. The Simone fight was a war. He stopped him. Looked great there. He was always in the Corey Sandhagen fight, and then he just got cut up badly. And that was a different version of Corey 4 years ago, So I like Song Yadong. I thought this guy was special even since he knocked out Julio Arce, you know what I mean? Or even before that, the Alejandro Perez knockout was just so sick, And that's really when Song Yadong was on the rise and had so many finishes, and he's always struggled a little bit with the counter grappling. I do think the Marlon Vera fight was a robbery, but this is a long time ago, And then the Kyler Phillips loss. So he went from a guy who went from pretty middling to really pulling it out. But he really only struggles with guys who can grapple, but he's kind of overcome that a bit. I know he's trained with a lot of high-level judo players, which has only helped his repertoire. He's solid in the grappling, and his striking is always, it's always going to be his forte. And I thought against O'Malley, he wrestled well, and it's a shame he didn't win that one. That would have been a great notch under his belt, but the odds makers aren't fooled. They still made Yadong like 3.5 to 1 in this fight because Figgy is on a downturn, and I thought Umar was underwhelming in that performance, and Figgy missed weight in that performance, so it's not the best look there. The split to Montel is just not aging very well, and could have easily lost that. And then obviously the Sandhagen mishap was sad. He had a knee injury in that one, but he was getting lit up. So Peter Yan, he didn't really have a chance against, not with that guy's gas tank, But Song Yadong, it being in China is going to be a huge advantage for him. I'm sure he's going to be close to where he grew up. And if not where he grew up, I'm sure where he's trained a lot. It's just always helpful when fighters are far away and fighters who maybe haven't fought there before, who have to take a long flight in. It's just going to look bad for them. And at 38 on this losing streak of sorts, I know he got the split to Montel, but he couldn't have felt that great with that type of win. So it's not a great trajectory for Figueiredo right now. And I think Song Yadong's going to be hungry after the O'Malley fight because I'm sure his whole camp told him he won that fight, and a lot of people thought he did. So Song Yadong over the course of 5 rounds is definitely going to punish Figgy. And I think he gets the job done. I'm not sure if he finishes Figueiredo, but I can see Song Yadong just working his takedowns, which he's gotten much better at. He's going to be so dangerous on the feet for Figueiredo. Deiveson's always live in the first couple rounds to look good, to hurt a guy, to use his grappling, maybe his back takes. He's got high-level jiu-jitsu, but other than that, Song Yadong's a whirlwind, and he doesn't stop. He's got underrated volume, and over the course of 5 rounds, I think it'll show. So I'm going to take Song Yadong there, maybe late TKO or like decision. He is in China. I'm sure the crowd is going to be really rooting him on, so Song Yadong there. And then Zhang Mingyang versus Alonzo Menifield. Interesting co-main event here. Zhang Mingyang, he looked like he was going to be the next champ, you know what I mean? And then out of nowhere, just getting stopped by Johnny Walker. He couldn't take more than a few leg kicks. It wasn't like Walker was hitting his legs so many times. Like, it only took a few, which was really alarming. It just means like he's not training his Muay Thai very well. It seems like all he probably does is just train the hands offensively, because defensively, he's a consistent liability. And Menifield, his chin is just evaporated. I remember when Alonzo first came onto the scene, he was a feared knockout artist, like against Paul Craig. That was an awesome knockout. And I know he fought like some bums too, I believe. Not Mutanch, but what was that guy's name? Vinicius Mojeda or something like that. He got some layups along the way, and he looked like a real knockout threat. But then he evolved into kind of this grappling, wrestling-based fighter whose chin just like evaporated. Ober got him out of there in under a minute. You know what I mean? So it was just strange. What's interesting about this matchup is that Mingyang is coming off a bad performance, and like he's not quite as invincible as he looked. I know his level of competition was terrible, and the Ozzy Diaz's and the Brinson Hibieros, which isn't a terrible win, it's actually a solid win for the most part, but those guys have always shown durability deficiencies, etc. mean, I could be very wrong here, and I know this one's in China, and it'll play heavily to Mingyang and the crowd, and his style is probably bad for Alonzo at this point in time because Alonzo really can't take a shot that well. I mean, Volkan just dispensed him. But I will say, Volkan's a very dangerous knockout artist. Azamat Mirzakhanov is a dangerous guy. Olberg is the champion. And Alonzo's still able to pull wins out against Julius Walker, who's not good. But Umar C is a solid win, and I don't know, he beat Dustin Jacoby as well. You know what I mean? And I think Alonzo can pull wins out, especially if the guy is just either too one-dimensional or I don't know. It's tough to say because I definitely think Mingyang can crack his chin and knock him out. But I think Alonzo can pull this one out. He's plus 250 in this fight. And Zhang showed us nothing but walking forward and throwing bombs with his hands. And I hate taking one-dimensional guys. This card is filled with a lot of hometown fighters, and I could see a lot of fights actually going either which way, but this one I just have a strange feeling about. I feel like Mingyang could definitely sleep him, but it's going to be an easy hedge. It's like Mingyang round 1 or Alonzo any other method. I think Alonzo could beat him in the second round, the third round, by decision. Once he gets the grappling going, wears Mingyang out a little bit. I'm not saying Menifield is the highest IQ guy, but I still think that he can do enough to get rid of Mingyang, and a lot of Mingyang's losses are later in the fight. This guy has 7 losses. It's not like he's some invincible dude, and he did take a lot when he was younger. But man, I'm going to take Alonzo Menifield, stronger strength of schedule, good grappling at this point in time. And he is more of a grappler than a striker anyway. So that's what he wants to do. And, man, I'm going to rock with Mingyang. You know what I mean? And I actually think Mingyang's a solid counter wrestler for the most part. But, man, if things get weird, things will get weird. And I don't think Mingyang has as much confidence as he did after that Walker fight. He probably realized he needs a lot of work to do. And if he comes out in the same way, then, man, maybe Menifield gets it done early too. I'm going to take a shot. I'm going to take a shot on Menifield there. Why not? Sergei Pavlovich versus Tallison Teixeira. Part of me thinks that, I was, you don't know, but I was doing a live stream and talking to people on Twitter the other day, and people are just shout out to Comer, but they're saying Pavlovich's aura is gone. And on Twitter, I was talking to guys about how Pavlovich has just been underwhelming in the past few fights, and it's not hard to see that something has obviously regressed in him. After the Aspinall knockout loss, he started refining his strategy a little bit. Even against Volkov, he was clinching a lot more than we'd ever seen. Against Rosenstrike, he's using takedowns to get the job done. When this guy used to be just an absolute marauder on the feet and wouldn't care what was coming back at him, he's just going to throw hammers back at you now. Teixeira, I mean, I know this guy isn't great, but he's still got a lot of size on him. He did lose a round to Tuivasa, arguably, so that was not a great look, and I think Pavlovich could even use his wrestling on Teixeira, but this is one of those fights that could get weird if somehow Pavlovich's spark is just completely gone. I know the guy just turned 34, so he's not old at all, but if he's lost his spark completely or lost his motivation completely, this is where Tallison, a guy hungry and as big and strong and good at jiu-jitsu as Tallison is, he'll come through here. But it's a pretty big jump from around the near top 20 to the top 3 guy. So it's a massive jump. You have to wonder why they're even making this matchup. But we're seeing a lot more mismatches in heavyweight because they just don't have a lot of heavyweights to send out there. So I'm going to take Pavlovich probably by knockout. I mean, maybe they just want a vintage Pavlovich knockout, which I wouldn't doubt seeing. You know what I mean? I wouldn't even doubt that. We're just going to have to see. We're going to have to see how that plays out. Yeah. Alex Perez versus Sumudaerji. This is an interesting fight. It's actually a pick'em, I believe. I saw some odds released early. I don't know if I agree with that. Even on Tapology, the strength of schedule is wide. Perez has been fighting and losing to the best of them. Even the Charles Johnson win is fantastic. Sumudaerji couldn't really do much in that fight. He's a good striker, no doubt. But every time he fights a grappler, he gets destroyed. I mean, even look at the Tim Elliott fight. It was embarrassing. And Jesus Aguilar is just much too small for Sumudaerji. But Perez has fought some great fights. And even against Almabayev, he took Almabayev down 3 times and was doing really well early in that fight, you know? And so if Sumudaerji can't really stop these takedowns or anything like that, Perez has some fantastic submissions, some solid knockout power himself. So I feel like, sure, maybe Alex Perez is a little worn for wear. Sumudaerji will be in China. It'll be more of a home game for him. But if we're talking skill for skill here, Alex Perez should get some takedowns and get the submission most likely. I mean, Perez is a wrestler by trade, so pretty confident in this pick. I don't know if those early odds were correct with being a pick 'em, but I'm sure Perez will get steamed if they are. And if not, then I would even put Perez, closer to 2-1 because just the grappling advantages are so much here. And so is the ranking. Perez is so much higher ranked. He's got great wrestling. He's got good power. He's got good durability for what Sumudaerji is bringing, So I've got to rock with Alex Perez. I like Alex Perez. He was on a downturn for a long while, but there were a lot of high hopes for him. I mean, a lot of people thought he'd be champ before Benavidez smoked him. That's honestly one of the most surprising results in UFC history when Benavidez just completely destroyed Alex Perez. But, you got to wonder if that did something to his confidence as well. But still a good fighter there. And, yeah, I'm taking him. All right, Kai Asakura versus Cameron Smotherman. Smotherman's a weird product. He got stopped by Gregorio in the first round, and then he beat Jake Hadley, got some hype behind that, but then Sergei City beat him pretty easily, was able to mix up the takedowns as well. So at first, I'm thinking Asakura is a little inflated. I think they have him like 3-1 or something like that, which is kind of crazy to me still, just because, I don't know, outside of Japan, I don't know if I trust Asakura as much. He just seems so much better in the ring and comfortable at home over there, but Smotherman hasn't done anything to really show me he's worthwhile. I mean, this is probably the fight they should have given Asakura in his debut instead of Pantoja, but it shows you how highly they think of Asakura. This will probably be a vintage performance for Asakura because Smotherman is just gonna just stand there and trade with him. So I like Asakura here. I think that it's going to be a fun little striking match. Smotherman's going to give Asakura what he wants. I don't know if it'll be a knockout, but Asakura probably does stop him. I mean, anyone who stands with Asakura long enough is going to get tagged with something big. So I'm going to take him probably by, I don't think it'll be an early knockout, but I think Asakura will get him in the second, or maybe just a wide decision and he drops him, something like that. So we'll see, but I'll take Asakura there. And then Angela Hill versus Zhang Jingnan. I know I'm saying that incorrectly. I apologize, but watched a lot of Zhang's fights in one championship, so I think she's got the goods. Angela Hill's always worth a little sprinkle. I think she's like plus 200 or something near there, maybe plus 180 in this one. Zhang is a whirlwind. She's got good hands. She's powerful. She's going to walk her opponent down. Angela's just not looked herself, even against Fatima Klein. And her last few, I was just like, God, Angie looks so slow, and it looks like she gets tired as she goes. Like, Angela would never get tired back in the day. Now it looks like she gasses a little bit more, and she just looks slow on the feet. But I think Angela's still going to give her some work. It's not like Zhang's just going to go in there and knock Angie out. But I think Zhang's got good enough pace, and her boxing is powerful. She throws heavy hands, so I'm not sure if Angela can take that at this point in time where she's just going to be getting walked down, eating heavy shots all fight. That's really something Angie's never been good at. I'm not comparing this chick to Andrade, but we've seen a lot of fights where Angie just kind of will throw back, but she's just going to eat bigger punches the whole fight and lose the decision, So I kind of see it like that, where Xiong's just going to land big shots on her, walk Angela down, and end of an era type stuff. I think Angela Hill did a lot of great things in her resurgence. She started off pretty bad and took some tough L's, but always lost to pretty good girls. And then in her resurgence over the past half decade or so, she went to Invicta and came back. She's done really well for herself. You know what I mean? She'll go down in the annals of history for something. I mean, Angela Hill took a lot of fights, almost like the female Neil Magny. Took a lot of tough losses, but could beat good fighters, just maybe not the best, and was just always down for a scrap. So I respect Angie here. And I would even throw a little sprinkle if you think, Angie's fought so many women like this on their first fight in the UFC and just schooled them and outclassed them. And it's like, it's an interesting notion, I'm not going to do it. I think at this point at 41, it just might be a little too over the hill, especially in the fight game. So I'm going to take Xiong there. But, Angie could do her thing in some universe. But Xiong by decision there. All right, Luis Felipe Diaz versus Yisak Lee. I know I'm not saying that correctly. Lee, it was a little hard to find footage on. He seems to come out of the same camp as Junyoung Park, the Iron Turtle. So I do like that. That means he's getting some good work, and it looks like he's powerful. I don't know if I can trust his takedowns or whatnot. It looks like he's got good reversals, good top control, good ground and pound. I think he is actually going to be trying to grapple Diaz a little more. If you wear Diaz out, he's kind of weak in the later rounds. And I was watching the Marcin Bandel fight versus Diaz, and he's just so helpless off his back. I know he got a nice little submission over Donovan Hedrick on the Contender Series. Diaz looks strong. His striking isn't the best or most technical, but man, this guy is so built. He's a strong guy, so if he's hitting you with a leg kick or a left hook, you're going to feel it regardless. So big, strong dude. Solid submission game. You could tell he's very good at getting takedowns, taking them back. I just worry about his gas tank. He's so built for middleweight, and it's just like, I don't know. He's usually the bigger man. I think he's around 5'10", but Lee will come in at around 6 foot. So it's going to be interesting to see if Diaz can maneuver a bigger man around without gassing out. So this one is tough. I can see Diaz getting the submission early or late, to be honest with you. But if he doesn't and he gasses out, I can see Lee taking over and really making Diaz pay. Maybe just positionally Diaz messes up, gasses himself out a little too much because he's going for takedowns, or he realizes Lee's not going anywhere. Because when you train with the Iron Turtle, you're going to be getting some good boxing rounds in, some good grappling. So I trust the camp. And I think Lee is a pretty sizable underdog here. And I'm just a little too 50-50 on it to be like, let me take this big favorite in Diaz, who looks to have the good somewhat offensively, but I'm not sure about his counter wrestling and his gas tank. And the gas tank is the biggest thing, man. I think Diaz can take Lee down and look good in the first, maybe get his back even. But then if Lee is just constantly as the bigger man scrambling out of stuff, Diaz is going to get tired. So I'm going to take a shot on Lee there. And Ray Tsuruya versus Jesus Aguilar. Yeah, Tsuruya is one of the few guys who actually pushed Van to the limit. Van didn't look himself against Tsuruya. This guy is a relentless grappler. His takedowns are really creative and beautiful too. I like watching this guy wrestle. He can shoot from across the cage too. You can tell this guy has like really high level technical wrestling and solid grappler. Not so much a finisher per se, but Jesus Aguilar, we saw him be the smaller man against another solid grappler who I would rate Tsuruya a much better takedown artist than Estevam. Estevam just kind of sticks to you and uses his jiu-jitsu by being the bigger man, but Tsuruya can easily do the same thing. I think, Jesus is just going to go for a ride, many rides in this fight. So Tsuruya will probably get 10 takedowns on him by the time he's done. So I like Tsuruya in this one a lot. I think Jesus is just much too small. He's going to have a big height disadvantage here like he does against everyone in the division now practically. But Tsuruya is just fantastic, and he showed a lot of heart against the damage Van was putting out, and like to even take Van down 4 times in that fight was impressive. His wrestling is on the level, if not better, than Tatsuro Taira. Taira is just able to piece stuff better a little more well, but Tsuruya's got a chin as well, man. This guy is high level, and Jesus, again, he's just too small. That's what it comes down to. So I like Tsuruya a lot there. I would even say he's a lock there, dare I say. Loma Lookboonmee versus Jaqueline Amorim. Amorim, not the most impressive chick, I'll admit. She's done good work in the UFC. I feel like some of her wins are just kind of low level. I actually took Inoue against her as a big dog. I'm like, Inoue shouldn't be that big a dog against her, but choking out Viana, Demopoulos win. The Corey McKenna win is fantastic. That aged well. She did lose to Sam Hughes, and her chokes are dangerous. Her arm bars are dangerous, and I don't really trust Loma anymore, especially at Losing to Alexis Tainara is one thing because Tainara is just an absolute savage, good everywhere, just a beast, much bigger than Loma. But Loma has shown that she's a little undersized for the division now because I lost a lot of faith with her in that in that Estela Nunes fight, right? Because if you watch that fight, Nunes gave her so many issues, and Nunes is not good. Nunes was a one championship level fighter, came into the UFC, probably shouldn't have been signed because I don't find her to be UFC level. And Loma's just struggling with Estela, and I think that's just Loma being a great Muay Thai fighter, being a solid grappler, but girls are just bigger than her now, and the girls are only going to get bigger and stronger as she moves up the ladder. Amorim is just going to give her a lot of grappling looks and work, and I think it's going to be hard for Amorim to get her off the back. But Amorim isn't the best on the feet. We saw Mizuki just blitz her and do really well in that fight. I think even dropped her. So I can see Loma having luck, but again, Loma's a little undersized too. That seems to be a theme of a couple fights in this card. So, yeah, I'll take Jaqueline Amorim there. All right, Aoriqileng versus Cody Haddon. I wouldn't count Aoriqileng completely out of this one. He is a big underdog to Haddon, and I know Haddon is just a whirlwind on the Contender Series against Billy Brand. He dropped him, looked good on the ground, Haddon, though, I just feel like, I don't know, it seems like he just really works through the fatigue, which is a good thing to see, and he's just a whirlwind, as I said. He's just an animal. He will always be on you, throwing strikes, using his takedowns. And against Dan Argueta, he looked pretty solid, and that was kind of Dan Argueta's last stand, but I felt like, I don't know, I just didn't see any power on Haddon at this level. And I think Aoriqileng has fought enough good guys and showed enough pop to really put Haddon on his heels. Like, if Haddon just going in there fighting with his hands down like he usually does, just trying to be the overwhelming aggressor in there, it might work eventually, but he's got to walk through some thunder first. I mean, Aoriqileng definitely has some power in his hands, and Haddon has to respect that. I don't know if I agree with the 3-1 for Haddon, but if this fight does leave the first round, which it most likely does, I can't see Aoriqileng stopping the takedowns really from Haddon. And I think that's where Cody's going to do a lot of his work on the ground. You know what I mean? And you look at Haddon's record, his only losses to Steve Ursig years ago, and this guy is pretty hyped. So the play is Haddon, but I mean, it's a little fishy, I just wish we had a crystal ball. We could see how that first round goes, because I know Aoriqileng is going to hit him with some hard shots, and that first round can change the complexion of everything. Even if he doesn't knock Haddon out, what if he just cracks him so many times that Haddon's a little reluctant, just keeps running in aimlessly, getting popped with the hands? Like, could get interesting. But I am going to rock with Haddon there regardless. Aoriqileng's grappling is just leaves a lot to be desired. He is tough on the feet. He's a formidable striker, but I'm just gonna go with Haddon there to overwhelm him with the takedowns eventually. I like a lot of what I've seen in Haddon's footage as well, where he'll get guys against the cage, absolutely bludgeon them with shots, and he's a good fighter. There's no doubt about that. We're just gonna have to see how it plays out. All right, Meng Ding versus Jose Henrique, or it might be Ding Meng, whatever. Ding looks so different, like without hair, with hair. There's so many fights with him, just looking different. I'm like, is this the guy? Is it when I was trying to watch footage? But yeah, I watched his fight versus Rami or something like that on the Contender Series. That was terrible, man. That was a terrible fight. He just aimless shots on the feet. All of his strikes were just hit in air. I didn't like his whole boxing setup. Like, it seems like at the end of the day, I think Meng wants to grapple, because on the feet I was just wholly unimpressed, But Jose Henrique, this guy, I'm not impressed with either. It was just like, it's hard to watch him fight sometimes. He just like stands there and eats big shots. I don't understand what he was thinking. His only losses to Kinoshita, who's a fantastic striker, by the way, but he was landing some good shots on Kinoshita, but then like he just gets touched with anything and goes out. I don't think he has a ton of power in his strikes. I also think that Ding Meng is going to probably press the wrestling, and honestly, like, I just don't have faith in Henrique's power, so I don't think he's going to really touch Ding with anything to hurt him. And it's also one of those things where I think Henrique is just a pure striker, because in some fights you can see him struggling with the grappling a little bit. He stands up so straight and tall. And I know Ding Meng is a considerable favorite. I don't know if I agree with that, like 2.5 to 1 odds for him. But at the end of the day, just comparatively, I think the footage just plays a lot more to Ding. I want to take the more well-rounded guy too, and he'll be in China, so I think that'll play to him. Henrique just offers nothing. I will say that he probably has a lot more volume, and if it does stay on the feet for 3 rounds and it's just a stinker, I think Henrique's got a good shot to win a decision here, right? But other than that, I don't really like him. Ding Mi has like 44 fights too, which is insane. He's got a good chin, and he's really just going to have to work in the wrestling. If it just stays on the feet, Henrique all day. But I think Meng is going to shoot at some point, grind Henrique out a little bit, and that's how I'm feeling. This fight is extremely low level, I'll be honest, even with the experience that Ding has. Like, he just didn't look good on the Contender Series against the guy who wasn't great and pretty green himself, and it's just a tough one to call. I'm going to go with Ding Meng, but I keep mispronouncing his name, but whatever. I can't go with Henrique. It just too little power, too bad a chin. I'm not feeling that. But it is in China, so things always get a little sticky. I mean, maybe the wrestling isn't going to be as great. Maybe they're a little jet lagged, or they're sick from the food out there. You never know. Like, it's the same thing with all these faraway places. Aussies always have an advantage in Australia. It's really just in these far away places from the US where you just never know how a fighter is going to turn up, especially if they're getting there somewhat late. Maybe the fight's not short notice, but maybe they're just arriving short notice, and different little conditions, of the climate or things that they're dealing with, so you never know. So I'm a little uneasy in locking anybody in for this card. I'd say Tsuruya is one of my more confident picks, but besides that, that's the UFC Macau card. I'm going to try and put some Road to UFC fight predictions out, as we do have a 2-week break till this card. But yeah, appreciate you watching. Maybe like the vid, subscribe if you want more, and I'll catch you next week.